Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetsky and Andy Kamenetsky. Andy, more reports the Lakers are waiting to see what it looks like before they make a trade. Don't we already know what it looks like? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends even. No matter how or where you get your podcasts, always free, never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you go to see the show. And on non-game days, particularly like the ones you're getting this week, the YouTube product is usually up there a little early before the audio. So it's a good way to get the podcast faster. We appreciate all the support there, getting close to 9,000 subscribers for the channel that we started literally from zero, started from scratch. So we appreciate all of the support there. Do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. This, as the world's largest therapy service, assume a lot of Lakers fans have joined. BetterHelp has matched 3 million people, not all of them Lakers fans, with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, Andy. So we've seen 13 games worth of basketball. Lakers are 3-10. But we have not yet seen the team whole. More reports that the Lakers are waiting to see what that looks like. This one from Marc Stein on his excellent Substack that everybody should subscribe to, that the Lakers they want to see what it looks like with Thomas Bryant and Dennis Schroder, both of whom should be back on Friday, reportedly.
Yeah, reading from Stein's report on this, quote, the Lakers have high hopes that Schroder in particular can give the offense a boost after both he and Bryant sustained thumb injuries during the preseason that required surgery. Lonnie Walker IV, who had 25 points in Sunday's win over the Nets in Walker's latest hopeful showing, spoke after the win about the Lakers finally having, quote, their full team Friday when they emerged from a 4-day break to host Detroit. Schroder, Bryant, and LeBron James, who missed the past 2 games due to an adductor strain, are all expected to play against the Pistons. That in and of itself is interesting with LeBron because yes, Lonnie Walker had been pretty definitive about Schroder and Bryant being back, but described LeBron as more of a hopeful thing.
So this part about waiting to see, we've heard at the beginning of the season, Lakers want to see 20 games. This was before they had lost any of them. But the Lakers want to see 20 games of what it looks like before they make a Russ move. They've since lost 10 of 13. And now we're seeing this language creep back in about wanting to see what it looks like. This time, not even just the whole team, but like Dennis Schroder and Thomas Bryant, no disrespect, but it's got that little nugget from Stein really upset a corner of Lakers Twitter today.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think that corner of Lakers Twitter, whether, I guess, unknowingly or just sort of knowingly while just feeding off their own anger, has, I think, missed the point of what Stein is reporting. First of all, I mean, it is worth noting that Dennis Schroder being back means that Kendrick Nunn will not see the court, and Kendrick Nunn has been unplayable. So even not having to put Nunn out there for 10 to 12 minutes a night will likely make the team better. Having Thomas Bryant out there gives them size optionality for 4s and 5s that basically aren't named LeBron or Anthony, or don't solely end up Wenyen Gabriel.
Well, they've been playing small, like at all times, out of necessity.
Right.
And it's nice to be able, like, they still will probably play small most of the time, but it's nice to not have to do it. Like, sometimes you want to put a center out on the floor, and Damian Jones just hasn't panned out. By the way, 2 guys, Kendrick Nunn, Damian Jones, I had very high hopes for this season, relatively speaking. I wasn't expecting Damian Jones to be Joel Embiid, but I also didn't expect him to be like Joel Gray right now either in terms of his. That's the only Joel I could think of.
Wow.
He's not. I mean, would you be confident with Joel Gray as your center for an
No, he's not
NBA team?
alive.
Even when he was dangerously undersized.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just like Damian Jones hasn't been very good either. And so like you are limited in what
my
you can
mistake, he is alive. He's just 90.
do. But either way, like look, a 90-year-old Joel Gray is not a good option there, but even a 50-year-old Joe Gray is not.
Right.
But the point being, Andy, you want to be able to put a functional center out of the floor in those situations where it is better for the Lakers to not go with Wenyen and Gabriel, or hell, figure out another thing. Maybe you play all three of them. I don't know, but they didn't even have the choice because they have unplayable guys right now at their disposal. This fixes that to some degree. I am fairly confident Dennis Schroder will not be unplayable. I am hopeful that Thomas Bryant won't be unplayable. And if nothing else, he provides a certain energy to the front court that the Lakers could use. It's a kind of a frenetic, taller version of Wenyen Gabriel in that sense.
Right. But I think what people also, though, are really missing is this is not about the Laker front office thinking that Dennis Schroder and Thomas Bryant can be panaceas and therefore make this team whole by virtue of their presence, and them being healthy and activated fixes everything. Like, as much as there are legitimate reasons to be skeptical of this front office, and you and I have spent a lot of time laying out those reasons on, multiple occasions, and I imagine our work here is not done. I really am willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that even they are not that delusional about the quality of their roster building this summer. What this is about is trying to figure out if those two back help create a foundation where making a move is actually worth it. Because right now, looking at the team, an all-in move seems potentially, if not likely, just a waste of your assets. Like, if you need to see more high-quality play from this group before you decide it is worth cashing in those 2 first-round picks and whatever utility you think you can get either from Russ's contract as an expiring or whoever else you might put in there, you need to make sure that it's actually worth it. Like, it's actually going to make you better.
So really what you're talking about is a difference not between roster assessment, like will these guys make them better, but like will they plus whatever we can trade for make them better enough? I got a couple questions regarding the framing of this and the way that Lakers fans are reacting. So let's get to that next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Sweat Block. There is nothing worse than sweat breaking out at the absolute worst time. Like, if you're at a wedding or a festive event, you naturally want to take your sport coat off, get loose, but you can't because there's basically a puddle in your underarms, and that is just unsightly. So you're stuck celebrating in a sport coat, looking like the uptight person at the party, because that's better than looking like the sweaty person at the party. And nobody wants to deal with that. You don't have to anymore because Sweat Block wipes are your little secret to confidence. The Sweat Block wipes work for up to 7 days per use. Just apply them on a Sunday and you will stay dry all week. Like, this is incredible science. Don't ask me how it works. Who cares? Just does. And if you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, just try Sweat Block. Save 20% with the promo code Locked On at sweatblock.com. Again, Locked On at sweatblock.com, also available on Amazon.
All right. So for tax purposes, Andy, I put all of my business expenses and all of my subscriptions, everything that I do, onto the same credit card so I can keep track of everything, all that kind of stuff. And so at the end of the year, this year, I realized like I have like 10 things that I subscribe to that I just don't need, but completely forgot about. And it's like $5.99 a month there, $10.99 a month there. It's to fix that problem. Rocket Money. It's formerly known as Truebill. A lot of people may be familiar with Truebill. Now it is Rocket Money. And this is where you go to cancel unnecessary subscriptions today. You're not walking around, spending money without realizing it. And this is money that could be put back into your pocket. And so you go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on. I'm not kidding. It could save you hundreds of dollars per year. So again, cancel unnecessary subscriptions with Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on, saving hundreds of dollars per year. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. All right. So I agree with you that I think that's what they're saying, Andy, that the idea here isn't, wait, hold on, maybe we won't have to make a move if Schroder and Bryant can push us over the top. I think you are correct about that. Much of what I think has people upset, though, is that they're not sure. Like, you would think that's what they're, but that they don't trust the Lakers front office to not be just sort of chasing rainbows. And, it goes back to last season, where will Trevor Ariza will be back at some point. And, that came from a lot of people, not just Harrison, with his phenomenal running joke on Twitter, our friend Harrison Fagan at now SB Nation, former editor of Silver Screen and Roll. I think people just don't have the confidence in the front office and the competence of the front office to believe that what you're talking about is in fact the case. And even if they do, then they're going to be pissed because it means the Lakers are willing to just chuck the season and not make a trade. If the answer is Schroder and Bryant don't get them close enough.
Look, if they're not good enough, they're not good enough. That's the reality. So you have to figure out, do we have enough here that if we add pieces, we have a foundation to dig ourselves out of a 3-10 hole? You can't undo the damage just because you feel like you owe it to LeBron or you're the Lakers and you're always going to be competitive, whatever. Reality is reality. And this is the reality that the Lakers are operating from. And if you want to make the argument that, the Westbrook trade and some other stuff were fireable offenses, and yet Rob Pelinka got an extension and the front office remains completely the same, valid arguments. But again, you don't fix dumb mistakes by making other dumb mistakes. And I guess glass half full version of this, they at least recognize the possibility of making a dumb mistake.
So we noted this a little bit from Monday's show, and our friend Socrates Thalassos, who really consistent commenter on the YouTube page, agrees. Like, Brian, in reference to me, all they need to do is finish at least 10th. Doesn't matter what the record is, so long as they make it at that point, there's always a puncher's chance. If you go back and you look at the standings last year, Andy, the Clippers were 9th at 42-40. The Spurs, though, got into that 10 spot at 34-48. I don't think that far below 500 is going to get you there this year. Portland, I think, is better than they were. Like, I think it's just there are enough good teams that are going to kind of push it down a little bit. The Jazz don't appear to be falling apart. The Pelicans are going to be okay. There's sort of too much going on. I'm sorry, I misread it. The Clippers were 8th. The Pelicans end up winning the play-in, whatever. Yeah. But so that required 36 wins. I think it's going to be closer to 40. Might even need to be 500. But let's just say it's 40, that's 2 games under 500, which means the Lakers, to get to that spot, to get to a 9 or a 10, would need to be 5 games over 500. If my math is off, somebody can correct me, but give or take, between now and the end of the year. And that's not a crazy big number. It's better than this. It's obviously way better than they've been. But I think this is what complicates it for Pelinka, for Kurt Rambis, for Linda Rambis, for any of the Rambis children who are weighing in. I don't know. Is that on the one hand, they're 3-10, but on the other hand, the numbers that are still out there, because there is so much season left, aren't crazy. If you had to say, like, hey man, they're getting the playoffs pre-play-in, like the Lakers are going to have to be, 15 games over 500 for the rest of the season, I would say, like, you probably need to pack it in. There's no way this team can be 15 games over. But 5, 6 with a healthy roster, and you add Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, just to name 2 guys, that's not crazy. And I'm as down as anybody on this team.
Well, a lot of this, I think, just comes down to what's your priority. Like, if your priority is this, because the Lakers have one shot really over the next 2 seasons to try to fix either this season, next season, or if things really crack right, both seasons. But you really only have one opportunity to do something major, whether you're talking about an in-season trade this year or waiting till the offseason, getting Russell Westbrook off your books, having more flexibility, having those 2 first-round picks still in hand, plus the 2023 that you can do something with for part of a draft day deal, like just more potential options. But either way, it's going to be one big crack at this, no matter how you do it. If your argument is the priority is this season, come hell or high water for whatever reason, then yeah, you can't afford to wait any longer, I think, and you just have to roll the dice. And that follows a certain logic. I don't know if it's necessarily the smartest, most practical way to go about doing this, but either way, the logic holds. If you're going to make this season the one that matters the most, then you really cannot afford to wait much longer. I think if you are trying to make the most informed decision possible to try to stack your odds from a position of decided disadvantage as well as you possibly can, then honestly, you do need to see at least a couple games of what it looks like. Again, not because you think Schroder and Bryant will somehow make this team whole and a trade won't be necessary. It's just a matter of, running off some wins. It's just, do you have enough?
Because the worst outcome is you give up the trade, you make the trade, you give up the picks, you whatever, and you still are, a sub 500 team.
Right.
That's the worst outcome.
Right. Because then you are going to be left most likely, unless you're somehow trading Russ and these 2 first-round picks for all expirings, just a bunch of guys to try to help this season. And then you try to get your cap space, I guess, without those 2 picks.
Technically, Turner, if you're going back to the Indiana deal, Turner is an expiring deal, but that's a lot to give up to just let the guy walk out the door.
Right. Or anybody.
Hield isn't, but theoretically could be moved.
Right. Or all these guys. Let's say you make a deal with Utah and you bring in like Jordan Clarkson, Mike Conley, and someone else, and that costs you 1 or 2 first-round picks. If you don't end up retaining any of those guys, unless you win a championship, that's a hell of a lot to burn through to just go like a round in the playoffs, maybe.
Right, to turn yourself into a 7 seed or something.
Right.
Like that.
So one way or another, you're likely not going to be getting cap flexibility if you make a deal at all, unless the deal is just terrible.
All right. So Andy, Rob Pelinka has been fired. Andy Kamenetsky, this is a hypothetical. Don't aggregate that, people. Rob Pelinka has not been fired, but this is a tease. Rob Pelinka has been fired. Andy Kamenetsky, in a shocking move, has been named his replacement.
It is shocking. Jeannie doesn't like us.
No, she doesn't.
I
could be your Kurt.
The can buy.
That's funny. No less GMing experience than the 2 guys who are doing it now. Which choice do you make? That's next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by Prize Picks. Hey, if you have not signed up for Prize Picks yet, Laker fans, you're missing out because this is daily fantasy made easy. Prize Picks has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. Prize Picks offers more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator. Pick 2 to 5 players and predict if they will score more or less than the Prize Picks projections. And Prize Picks has you covered for any sport that you watch. NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, plus Euro basketball, cricket, and more. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Prize Picks is safe, fast withdrawals. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up, play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks gives you $100. Don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On at the sign up for the instant match. If you're not playing Prize Picks, you don't know what you're missing.
What do you do? Do you make a trade this season? Do you pull the trigger on Indiana, or do you wait?
Look, I would have pulled the trigger on Indiana heading into the season, because I feel like if you're going to do this, you want to give yourself as much time as possible. To try to get a training camp together, to try to get off on the best foot possible, because you're in a competitive Western Conference.
Which is why I said, by the way, they should have fired Pelinka in the offseason and hired you.
Right, that is true. You did start that. You did start that campaign down at Crypto. One of the protests. There was another one over this weekend.
Look, I'm all for civil disobedience and people registering their complaints. That is not how I'm spending my day. It's not going to have the effect I think people are looking for.
I'm not sure it's how a lot of people spend their day, but the problem is right now they are, 7 games below 500, and they're operating from a place where they have to use so much energy just digging themselves out of that hole. They lose the ability to as easily give LeBron a night off, give Anthony Davis a night off. You're already seeing this groin thing pop up with LeBron, and that is a recurrent thing for him over basically his
groin thing.
That's my medical term for it. I got to be honest, I am less inclined to make a big deal this season, at least right away. I need to see more evidence of this foundation working, and also this foundation staying on the court, before I do something drastic and cut out all of my potential options right now.
It's funny when you talk about 69 games left, I guess. They played 13, they got 69 left. It's both the promise and the thing that would keep you from doing it. It's like, on the one hand, 69 games, you can make up a lot of ground. You can change a lot of things in 69 games, particularly if, as it is now, you don't have to get all the way up to 8th anymore. That will require you, I think 8th in the West this year is going to be 3 or 4 or 5 games over 500. I think there's just too many good teams. But you don't have to get that far. It'd be nice, but you don't have to. But on the flip side is, like you say, 69 games, a long time for them to stay healthy. 69 games is a long time for things to work out the way you need them to. And I think, look, if they go out, they've got 5 or 6 of their next games are against very winnable opponents. They finally reached this sort of soft spot. You get San Antonio 3 times. You get Detroit. The Spurs lost again on Monday. They have slowed down considerably after an unusually surprising start. Detroit's not good. If you're 3 or 4 games under 500 after this stretch, maybe you rethink it.
Yeah.
But this stuff matters. And when you laid it out, the good one is probably going to go to the Pelicans in terms of the pick that you have, but you still have the Pelicans pick, and it's probably not going to be in the lottery, but it's not going to be the 29th pick in the draft. So that's something you can use. You've still got your 2 picks. You've got the cap space, and that can be used for free agents. Not so I on that, but you can also trade people into it. You have a better menu of options if you wait. The question becomes, like, how much do you sort of alienate people on the way? Like, it is, if they do nothing and the team stays as bad as it is now, it's not going to be good. You're going to see more protests at the Crypt, which, by the way, crypto.com apparently is having some serious issues as well. So we could be in for an arena name change. Like stuff is going to, like, Genie is going to have a really rough year. Rob, I don't know how you can have this season and go into it next year with Rob Pelinka as GM, even with the extension. Like, it's not as if there are no ramifications. And then who on God's green believes that this brain trust that has undone a title team in 2 seasons is skillful enough to thread this needle of taking these limited assets and turning it into a relevant team again? I do not.
Well, I mean, I guess if that's the case, then you might as well hold on to those picks and then bring in somebody new who, if nothing else, by the time 2027 rolls around, will have a better idea of how to use that pick one way or the other. But, like, the reality is, too, and something I've mentioned before, but this is what it really comes down to. You need to be asking a hard question, which is LeBron still worth this? Is LeBron still playing at a level where he is unquestionably worth cashing in all of your remaining assets, worth centering everything that you do around? Is he still playing at that level? Like, if you make this type of move, is it more about supplementing LeBron or supporting him? And supporting him because he needs more help, as opposed to just building the best supporting cast around him. Because the reality is, the more help LeBron needs, the less sense it actually makes to push all that help around him.
Well, and also too, Andy, if you make you give up the stuff, you make the deal for Hield and Turner. Hield's rebounded. His shooting has rebounded very well this year.
Yeah.
Miles Turner is doing exactly what you would want, for Indiana right now, blocking shots. He's rebounding the ball much better than he has over the course of his career too. That's something that we had talked about going into the season, is like one of his weak points. If LeBron does that groin thing again and misses 25 games, it doesn't matter. Like, you're back to where you started. And
right.
That you got a better team on a night-to-night basis, more competitive. But Anthony Davis with LeBron James, with Anthony Davis with Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, is not going to get you where you want to go in the West. So,
I mean, maybe if you began the season with that as your foundation, but that is your foundation working your way out of a hole. No, it's not going to happen.
So that's one of the questions, and maybe we'll put it up on the YouTube page, put it out at Cam Brothers on Twitter. Like, is LeBron James worth this still? And
here's a question
it's an interesting framing of the conversation that we can explore throughout the week while the Lakers aren't playing.
Here's a question that we can maybe talk about in the next show, but I want you to think about, listeners, viewers can think about, is LeBron still unquestionably a top 5 player in the league?
I know my answer about that. But yeah, we'll think about that, because that is directly relevant. And then, is Anthony Davis a top 10? Unquestionably. That's also relevant.
Yeah.
Lots of questions to look forward to. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you go to see the show, to look at our faces, which are often filled with angst and worry, because things haven't gone well so far. And it's where you go to get the show a little bit early, see us do it, and join into a great community of commenters and people who really care about the team and love talking about it. So we appreciate all the support there. We'll see everybody on Wednesday.